everyone. Welcome back to the Christian Music Verse podcast. Once again, I'm Brendan, and unfortunately, Braden's not here today, guys. He had an emergency he had to get to, but he wishes you all are well, and he will see you next week. Today I'm with Daniel Doss, so I'm just gonna let Daniel introduce himself right away.
Well, hey, I'm Daniel Doss, and man, been around a while. Live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. If you're not from the Nashville area, it's just right outside of Nashville. And yeah, do music. I lead worship, songwriter, produce, all those things. So yeah, I'm just excited to be here today.
This is just a question that came up. Do you like the Musaburo, how to pronounce it area? I'm in the process of moving to Tennessee. I'm just trying to figure out what area.
Okay, so Murfreesboro is southeast of Nashville. It's really a well placed for me because my church is in Murfreesboro where I lead most Sundays. I'm not there
Hmm.
every Sunday, but and then it's only about 30 minutes from Franklin, about 35 minutes from downtown. So it's from downtown Nashville, and so
So
it's
it's like
it's a
perfect
really good place. Yeah,
because Brad and who my co-host is, we're actually planning to be roommates starting like September or October. So
that's cool.
we're looking right
Yeah,
now. So.
Murfreesboro is a lot of musicians are moving here. A lot of artists have moved here in the last couple of years.
Well, thanks for that. Anyway, let's just start diving in right away. You said you're a producer, singer. Can you tell us a bit about your music journey, how you started in music and everything?
Yeah, so my dad was a minister of music. He still is actually, and my mom was a piano player. She passed about 12 years ago, but she taught music in school and was played piano at church, and so I grew up in it. I kind of didn't have a choice. I definitely got it honest. And so
Mhm.
I grew up singing. I didn't play piano or guitar till I was in college, though, actually, and so that's when I began to write a lot of my own songs and record them, and I slowly learned. I wasn't in the Nashville area. I was in West Tennessee, is where I grew up, and it was only 3 hours from Nashville, but it was pretty far away as far as knowing anybody. And so I kind of recorded stuff on my own. I had some friends that had a studio, recorded there, and so over the years I would write a song and record it, and if I had a band with me, I'd get them in the studio, and so it's just kind of been a journey of fun and practicality too. Seeing I was in churches writing songs for churches.
That's really cool. And I like how you start, we're 3 hours away, now you're closer to the area. That's
Yeah.
really cool. You just immerse yourself into the environment and things come. Um, Talking about your music, and you just released an album recently. Might have been a couple of years. I'm really bad with dates, so I apologize. I don't have dates memorized, but it was Revival. Can you tell us a little bit about that album?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I released it in its full length this past year, so it's a pretty recent release. But I did release it as singles over the last couple years, and the title track "Revival" came out, and it shot to about 500,000 streams pretty quick. So we're real excited about that, and it's about to hit 1 million streams now. And the rest of the album is tracking really well as well. But the one thing I'm really excited about with this record is that I printed it to vinyl. So I don't know if you listen to vinyl at all, but it's a record. I made a record, and I'm excited about that. But I printed some CDs too because when I go play different concerts and events, people still buy CDs, and people are starting to buy records as well. And so the whole vibe of the album I built around the idea of a vinyl record actually as well. It looks really classic. Like my photo on the cover, my barber took it. I said, "Hey, you know how barbers will like when they get done cutting your hair, some of them will take a picture of you, to put on
Exactly.
Instagram." And he sent me the photos. I was like, "Dude, can I use this on an album cover?" He's like, "Sure, man." So I sent it to my graphic designer, and I showed her what I wanted. I told her what I wanted as far as the vibe goes, and she put that suit on me. So if you see that picture, that suit, I wasn't wearing it in the photo. She put it on me with the design of it.
Pretty
So
clever.
yeah, but the songs, the music on there, I wanted it to feel kind of timeless. So, music is current. Current. You can be
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, this was like within the last couple years, or oh yeah, that sound was 5 years ago, or that sound was 15 years ago. I wanted this one to not really be peggable. Like I want people to listen and be like, oh, that's cool. They catch the energy more than they catch the season that it was written in. There's one that feels kind of classic, like kind of a soul vibe. We got put some horns on it, and then there's one that sounds kind of like kind of a Maverick City vibe, just people standing around a piano with a band, and so it kind of got an old hymn on there, a couple old hymns on there, and with just a piano and a steel guitar, and so it kind of runs the gamut of energy with a band, um, old school kind of vibe to just simple piano vocal. And so that's kind of what I was shooting for. And I really, really excited about it. People have really received it well.
And that's why I like tracks and songs that are different albums. And I don't listen to vinyl, unfortunately, but I do have CDs. And when you said people buy CDs, I have over 600 CDs in my bedroom right now.
Wow, that's
I just
amazing, dude.
whenever I go to concerts, like I don't buy like T-shirts, and most of the time I just buy CDs just to show my support and everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But talking about a little more about Revival, or you said Maverick City more or less. You also have written songs for like Maverick City, Passion City, and then you've been working with Word. Can you tell us a bit about your journey as a writer as well?
Yeah. So I was I was an artist writer back in 2007, 2008. I did a record with Sparrow with EMI, CMG. It's now Capitol. And Ed Cash produced it. He's the front man for We the Kingdom now, but he produced it back then. And then my wife and I moved to Chicago to help start a church. We moved back to Tennessee, back to Clarksville in 2014, I believe. And that's when I started talking to Curb Word or Word. It's now known as Curb Word. It's on Music Row. There you go. You're wearing a
Yeah,
hat. Well, it was Word Worship is who I signed a publishing deal with. And I was there for around 2015, 2016 through 2019. And during that journey, I had opportunity to write with a lot of different artists and writers. And I'll never forget me and Matt Armstrong went together one time, or Tony Wood, or I think I went both times separately with each one of them. And we went to Passion City Church, and we were riding there, and we were riding with some people from House Fires, and they were talking about how they're doing this new thing, and they're calling it Maverick City. And so it's like nobody ever heard of it. I'd never heard of it, and so I'm sitting there in Passion City Studios, riding with them. Brandon Lake's in there, Dante Bowe's in there, some other friends, that I made there were there riding, and so it was cool to see all that kind of come to fruition out of that time. But yeah, I got to know some of them. I've written with Maverick City a few times. They had retreats, then yeah. So that's kind of how all that happens through word worship.
that's very cool. This is just a random question I have that kind of segued into both. What do you prefer doing more, being a singer or a songwriter?
That's a great question. Depends on the time of day.
Because
Like,
I hear there's like I met with some singers before, and they said they prefer doing the songwriting. They're okay with singing, but they like writing songs like that are true and emotional, emotionally honest and everything. So
yeah, you know, that's really hard to say. I enjoy both so much. Writing has just become so second nature for me. Like, just there'll be seasons where ideas come out, and then really it comes down to committing to a meeting with other people to co-write. That's the discipline of writing, where you show up and you write. And I love that. I love meeting people, hearing their stories, and trying to dive into to bring an idea or a song to life. Because I'll meet with an artist that, they're like, I really want to say this, and here's what I'm passionate about, and then just spend the next 2 to 4 hours like just unpacking that musically is that is very life-giving to me. And but at the same time, I for years I grew up singing, and I lead worship at a church, and I'll travel. I was doing the youth evangelism conference for Tennessee this past month. We did a west, middle, and east, had about 1,000 to 1,500 kids show up at each one. And that was an absolute blast, and I took my band with me, and I love doing that. So and I record a lot here in my studio. I'll do a lot of vocal recording, so I enjoy that. It's really hard to say one or the other, to be honest.
you're good.
But
I was just
they,
curious if you had a preference because like there's some people
yeah,
that like I'm strictly music, I'm strictly songwriter, and I mean nowadays I feel like with a lot of these artists are going independent route in a way too. They're doing both in that realm now.
yeah, yeah. And that's probably my problem. If I was going to tell you I had a problem, it was trying to do too much, because I love doing so many different things. Like, I
Mhm.
like producing. So there's a church in Kansas City that I'll write with a worship pastor there, and I've produced like 3 songs for them. I'll go up there and help introduce the song, and so I'll have him here in my studio in Murfreesboro, Nashville, and track his vocal and work on the song or write it. And I've done that with multiple churches and multiple artists over the years. But I'm not like a pure producer. I know guys that what they do is produce, and they do it so well. but I really enjoy it. I like have a little studio here that I'll track in, and mainly vocal stuff, guitar stuff. But it's I really enjoy it all, and it just depends on the season. Some seasons I'm working on my own record, some seasons I'm working on somebody else's record, and this past record I did, I had a guy who reached out, and he came to my studio for a day, and we ended up producing a song for him. And then he was like, "Man, I want to do a full length album," and I was like, "Man, I can't." I was like, "I don't have time to do the whole album." And so I sent him to a friend of mine who actually I knew would do a better job or serve that project better than I would, and he did. And so I just remember just wishing I could do all the things. I wish I could have produced his record, but I couldn't if I was going to produce my own and also travel like I was. So it's hard to choose what to do, but I'm just having a good time doing it.
Yeah. And recently you were also on a collaborative project. I don't know however way you want to say it. It doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
called 90s Worship Night. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So Chad Gentry he's a friend I met years ago. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe 15 years. It's been a long time. And for some reason, by God's grace, he remembered me when he was working on this project. And man, I tell you, he has pulled together some heavy hitters. And I mean, I'll be honest, when I posted the song we did a Grace Flows Down and We Fall Down, like a medley. And when I posted it, Jeff Deo commented and messaged me, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is like
Mhm.
Jeff Deo here. Who is this? Like, who am I that he's reaching?" So anyway, I'm just honored to be on the project, and there's some great, great songs and artists on there. And he reached out and said, "Man, here's the songs we're thinking, and this medley." And so I went, uh, I went to the studio up in Gallatin. There's a couple brothers up there that I work with. They have a studio, and one of them plays drums and plays piano. One of them plays all the rest. And so we just spent the day recording "Grace Flows Down" and "We Fall Down," and I'm really excited about it. The sound we captured is really nice. It's just a real chill with a steel guitar, a drums, and piano on it. It's really nice. And I had our worship director at church. Her name's Pam. She does a great job leading our team there, and she sings real well. And I asked her if she'd come sing with me on it. She came out here to the studio. We tracked her vocal, and that's how that all that kind of came to be. And I'm really excited to see what happens with it. It's a really incredible project with so many great names on it.
And for anyone that's listening, make sure to tune in. Is it out yet? Do you know, or is it still in progress? Sorry.
I think the album is out. I think they're just kind of developing, getting it out there, But I think the album is available to listen to the whole thing.
So anyone that's listening to this podcast episode, whatever you want to call it, listen to Daniel's music, listen out to the 90s revival album. We just have a few extra minutes with you today because I'm not going to take your whole day. Do you have anything you want to bring up or talk about? We like to give our guests the floor.
Man, I tell you what, there's a lot of people these days that are writing a lot of songs, and I think that's God at work. I think that's the Holy Spirit at work in people's hearts and in churches as well. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to talk to at the Southern Baptist Convention, like a national worship conference, doing a breakout session about songwriting. And I'm challenging the worship pastors and pastors there to cultivate a songwriting community in their congregation and ways that they can do that and be mindful of those in their community that are writing. I had a guy just a few weeks ago hand me a CD with a song, and I reached out to him, and he just told me what was going on in his world. And I said, "Man, I love that you're writing. Keep writing." And I was honest. I said, "This isn't a song that we would use for the
Mhm.
congregation in our church, but it's beautiful that you are exploring what God is doing in your heart." And I think it's a great mode of expression and connection with our Heavenly Father. And so anyway, I love the aspect of songwriting, and I'm really excited about the album you asked about, Revival. In Second Chronicles 29, Hezekiah becomes king. He was 25 years old. I don't know how old you are, Brandon. You're probably not much older than that. You might even be younger. I don't know.
I'm 25 exactly. So
Boom.
no,
Can you imagine? Can you imagine becoming king right now? A king of a whole nation.
no,
That'll be
honestly, no.
that'll be bonkers, wouldn't it? Well, this
Crazy.
dude, he became king when he was 25, and his dad was not a good guy, nor was his dad's dad. And he wanted to do what was right in the eyes of the Lord. And so the first thing he did was cleaned out the temple and restored worship. And so they had sacrifices, and it took about 30 days. And then they had offerings from the sacrifices. People were so excited about what God was doing in their hearts as they brought sacrifices. And God brought revival through the vision of this one 25-year-old dude who said, I want to follow the Lord. And in 1 month's time, about a month's time, if you go read 2 Chronicles 29, the whole chapter is about that story. In 1 month's time, God brought restored temple worship, and he brought revival. And on my album, if you buy the CD, if you open it up, on the inside it has a portion of scripture from that 2 Chronicles 29, because that song talks about removing the idols out of our lives that we need to get rid of so God can come and revive us. So if your temple as a life, as a human, as a man of God or woman of God is filled with things, with idols that aren't of God, in order to get him to come and dwell in that house of your body, of your spirit, of your soul, in order to do that, you've got to rid yourself of those things. And they did that physically with the temple, but now we know we are the temple of God. We're the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so we want him to feel at home in us. And so we got to clean it out. And that's what this song and this record is about. It's about returning to the Lord. It's about saying, God, we want you more than anything. And the last couple of songs, the last song is called Speak in Terms. And it was just a real honest song about, the vocal you hear on that song is the vocal I recorded the day I wrote it. I didn't change it. And I just added instruments to it. And I didn't even think I was ever going to release it because it was so personal. But when I listened to it 6 months later, I thought other people, I think, should hear this because it's just honest and just saying it's hard to even pray right now, and asking the Lord, are we still on speaking terms? And the answer from the Lord is yes. And he wants to draw us near. And so, man, I hope that any music I create in my life helps push people towards God. And that's what I want them to know, Jesus. I want them to know the Lord. And I want believers to know him better. And so that's my goal. That's my life's call. And anyway, I'm super honored to be here talking to you about it today.
And I like that. And if you haven't listened to the album, guys, I'll share up a link into the description of this video. I'll also put the album or Daniel's album, like, I don't know what to call it, store, like the store to his album in the description. So make sure to check it out. Or if you see Daniel live somewhere near you, I don't know his tour schedules because tour schedules are now getting wacky every day. I think they go from like Texas to New York in like a day, and I'm like, I can't do this. But anyway, so I would just make sure to check it out, listen to it, read the Bible verse or story that Daniel brought up as well. Thank you again, Daniel, for joining me today. I know it was a little quick interview. Usually these are a little longer too with me and Brandon going back and forth, but we don't like taking your whole day. So thank you again for joining me.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brandon, man. Super honored to be here.
And I hope you guys all have a great week, and we'll see you next time.